The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. Now here are your co-hosts, Marv R., Bruce H., and the Monty Man.
Well, I hope everybody's had a relatively good first half of the week. Welcome to the great reality here at Open Forum here at Take12Radio.com on your internet dial. Our email address is Take12Radio@Comcast.net. Bruce is here, Marv is here, I am here, and Cecil's going to make a real quick cameo appearance. Can you make a cameo appearance on audio, on radio? I don't know if you can. Well, anyway, Cecil's going to do that.
Cecil can do it.
Cecil can do it.
Does this mean he's going to be wearing camouflage?
Camouflage, yeah. But Cecil's only going to be poking his or her, whatever it is, head in here really quickly today. Won't be spending a lot of time with Cecil, because Cecil is on vacation for this week. But Cecil did agree to just poke his head in and say hi. All right. So for people that have never heard the show, they're going, what are you talking about? All right. This week, the 9th step promises associated with the 9th step. Step 9 reads, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. What people are we talking about? The people on our amends list.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And you're not one of the others.
And you are not one of the others that you're concerned about harming. I was like, well, I would be uncomfortable if I did that, so I'm not going to do that because that would make me uncomfortable. Like, sorry. So we're going to be talking about that. Comedian Andy Dick. You guys know comedian Andy Dick? You both are looking at me like I'm crazy. Well, all right, so many of the listeners do. He's back in rehab, number 13. He is a funny guy, and he is just a tender-hearted guy, so we just wish him all the best. It breaks my heart when I see people needing to go back into rehab for the 13th time. I wonder what's missing, What are we not touching on? And I think one of the things that we're not touching on is the solution. I think we try to clinician this thing to death sometimes, and we don't really seek out the solution. So hopefully that'll be addressed. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go right into our first break here, and we come back, we're going to do a real quick Take 12 trivia. It is not multiple choice this time, so I've got a surprise for you. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
I'm not playing.
Treatment does not have to be voluntary to be effective. Sanctions and enticements from family, employment settings, and or the criminal justice system can significantly increase treatment entry, retention rates, and the ultimate success of drug treatment interventions. Freedom Interventions provides the direction necessary to get the help of an addiction intervention. We assist with selecting a treatment experience appropriate for the unique needs of your addicted loved one, and provide 6 months of ongoing support to ensure success for everyone involved in the transition into real life. If you know someone who needs a life-saving intervention, visit freedominterventions.com or call 888-762-7557. That's 888-762-7557. Freedom Interventions, providing drug and alcohol interventions and a continuum of care services to clients and their families.
I remember how scared I was. I was desperate. I know I was desperate because I wouldn't have called otherwise. I was sick. I was beginning to do things I promised myself I'd never do. There wasn't anyone left who was glad to see me anymore. So I took a chance and called Narcotics Anonymous. You don't have to wait till you're as bad off as I was before you reach out.
Narcotics Anonymous, 800-TODAY-NA. That's 800-863-2962.
Here's what's his name.
Do you want to play trivia? Trivia.
All right, it's time for Bruce and Mar's favorite game show, Take 12 Trivia. No multiple choice this week.
I'm not playing.
Yeah, you are playing. Or you're out of here. All right, brought to you by SerenitySpringsRecovery.com. Visit their website at SerenitySpringsRecovery.com. All right, famous sidekicks. So I'm going to name you one of the members of the duo, and then you're going to guess who it is. Okay? It's not that difficult, I don't think. We'll see. All right, so you just shout it out, and whoever shouts it out first gets the satisfaction that they shouted it out first. All right, ready?
Jerry Lewis.
All right, no. That would be Dean Martin. He said Jerry Lewis, I'd say Dean Martin. Okay. Number 1, Batman and?
Robin.
Very good. Number 2, Snoopy and? Okay, Snoopy and Charlie. Be Snoopy and Charlie. Charlie Brown. Snoopy and Charlie. All righty.
We all of that because we didn't get Charlie?
Yeah.
Either you know Charlie or you don't know Charlie.
Okay, number 3, the Lone Ranger and?
Tonto.
Number 4, Sherlock Holmes and?
Oh, Watson.
Very good. Number 5, Han Solo and?
What?
Han Solo from Star Wars. Han Solo and? Any guesses? Chewbacca. Chewbacca would be the correct answer. Okay, number 6, Dr. Frankenstein and?
Frankenstein.
No. Dr. Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah. Who's the guy with the humpback?
Yeah. We'll give it to you. Igor. Dr. Frankenstein and Igor. Number 7, Abbott and?
Costello.
Come on, Marv.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Please, Cecil.
Okay.
Beanie?
We only have 3.
And Cecil.
We only have 3 more. That would be correct, yes. Yeah. Number 8, Fred Astaire and?
Ginger Rogers.
Very good. Number 9, the Green Hornet and?
Kudo?
Close.
I don't know.
Kato. Okay, and number 10, the Monty Man and?
Think about it. Think about it.
That's right.
That's right. I'm the Monty Man sidekick, and don't you forget it.
That's right. Woo! Wasn't that fun?
That was a little humorous.
All right, we'll be right back right after this with the promises associated with the 9th step. Don't go away.
Origins Recovery Centers provides integrated inpatient treatment for substance abuse and co-occurring disorders. At Origins, clients receive expert medical, clinical, and spiritual care individually designed for their needs. Our clients leave Origins with the foundation upon which they will build the rest of their lives. Call now to speak with an admissions specialist. Our toll-free number is 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
Let's walk through the big book. Join Chris Schroeder and the Monty Man for this in-depth journey through the basic text of Alcoholics Anonymous. As one of the most sought-after circuit speakers in the world of the 12 steps, Chris will be walking us through line by line, page by page, of this wonderful book that has meant so much to so many people who have recovered from the disease of alcoholism. If you've never studied the big book, or even if you have but would like a new, refreshing approach, join us here at Take12Radio.com for an exciting, educational, and spiritual look into a plan for living that can be applied and implemented into the lives of anyone who is willing to recover from alcoholism.
And you can get your you can get a copy of Walking Through the Big Book by going to our recovery store at take12radio.com for a $25 donation. But the great news is you can download each one of those workshops. There's 35 one-hour workshops. You can download them for free at our website. Just click under workshops, go to Walking Through the Big Book, click on the link, and there you'll have all 35 workshops. Right-click on the download MP3 link, and you can save it to your computer or your smart device, and then you don't have to pay a dime. For fun and for free. All right, so the promises associated with Step 9. So over the last few weeks, I've been receiving some letters from folks, from emails, per my request. Have you ever attempted to make amends and it wasn't received, and you would love nothing more to reconcile with the individual, institution, or maybe even principal, things be well and hunky-dory, but it's not happening. You've done your part. You've done everything you're supposed to, at least that you know of, and it hasn't been received well. So I picked three that I'm going to read to you, and then we're going to talk about the promises as a result of the 9th step. But the first one was, and I'm reading this not because I understand it so much, as because I want people, when I post a survey or I request somebody to respond, when you fill out one of these forms, please be very thorough, because I don't get it. So the first one says, for the past days, I was suffering because my relationship with my girlfriend didn't work out. Even though I loved her so much, she left me all alone. I was crying and drunk for two months. Okay. You need to be a little more thorough than that. I appreciate you sending in your thing, but please, you guys, I'm not sure what all that means. So the question is, did you try to make amends and it didn't work out, and you're wondering why? So here's the first letter. The other one was just an example of a bad submission. Okay, when I was still using and drinking, I tried to make amends to my childhood best friend at the time because I had inappropriate behavior with his wife. I was told, and I fell for it, by a so-called friend of the same faith as my childhood best friend, to apologize for my inappropriate behavior with his wife. My friend said in front of my face that it was all right that I apologized about the situation. The person of the same faith, Christian faith, was a controlling, sick individual himself too. He was probably more so controlling and sick than I was at the time, even though he wasn't an alcoholic. The next day, my childhood friend became very furious, talking about he went to his childhood friend now, as suggested by this other guy. When he saw me when I entered the gas station where he was working. I had worked in that same station that my best friend was working a few years before. Every time I saw my now former best friend, he was always furious, and I had ruined years of friendship ever since we were children. Now that I have been in a 12-step program for a few years, the program has taught me to not make amends if it would injure the other person. I ended up injuring the other person, and he never forgave me. I even wish today, with all my heart, that I wouldn't have made that so-called apology, and that I still had our precious relationship that we had as children, and even as teenagers in some of the 20s. I ended up scarred by the controlling person of the Christian faith through the years because I was too weak to get out of that situation. I finally became strong enough and let him go. It has been hard to come to forgiveness of my controlling ex-friend, and sometimes when I think about the things he did, I get angry and have to ground myself through prayer and ask for the spirit of forgiveness from God. My controlling friend ended up committing suicide in the not-too-distant past. My program has taught me that I can't save myself at the expense of another person's well-being. It has also taught me that when I'm to make amends, and I am to go to a sponsor, life coach, or spiritual advisor and run it by them first, and not foolishly take matters in my own hands. I need to always pray before I make amends and be guided by God ultimately. And lastly, I pray that someday my former excuse me, childhood friend may find it in his heart to forgive me, even though I may never see him again. Who knows? I may one day see him in heaven with me and be reunited in perfect peace. So this gentleman had a friend of the same faith tell him, you need to go to this guy and apologize for messing around with his girlfriend. And so he did that, and it didn't turn out too well, and the guy's never spoken to him since. The guy that recommended that he do this killed himself. Wow, that's quite a story. So, do you think our author of this gets it?
I think he gets it now.
I think he gets it now, yeah.
He gets it now, but he surely didn't get it before.
No.
Even though he went and got advice, which is probably a good thing to do.
Right.
I don't believe he had done the steps prior to the...
Exactly.
To the amends.
What do you think, Marv? Think he gets it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of thinking a little bit farther down the line.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger book talks about there's wisdom in a multitude of counselors.
Yeah.
But every one of us have to have this little thing called discernment to try to figure out if what your counselors are telling you fit the situation you're in.
Right.
As an individual.
Right.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is, the guy, he went forward based on his spiritual advisor or counselor or whatever you want to call him, but did he stop for a little bit and say, wait a minute now, is this going to fit this situation?
Yeah.
I mean, it might be wisdom for one person, but for another individual, it may not be.
Good point.
Yeah.
So, oh boy, I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
It's those glasses you're wearing.
I know. I hate them. I'm wearing red frame glasses, everybody. I hate these things.
It almost sounds like to me that the guy that he went to make amends with didn't even know about it.
Exactly.
So, boy, you really need to be in some sort of really wanting some wisdom before you go.
You bet. And it sounds like this other guy who recommended that he do this was very controlling. So you need to do this. I mean, sometimes we fall under the accountability of spiritual advisors or people in our faith or whatever that are very controlling. Yeah. And they'll say, you have to do this, or you can't come to church here, or whatever. This was kind of an ugly thing.
Yeah. I'd like to say something to try to follow up on what Marv is talking about here.
Yeah.
I think we do need discernment, and we have to take a look at it. Does it fit this situation? Is it appropriate in our lives? Because we're the one that's going to reap the benefits, and we're going to get the backlash if that's what it is.
Sure.
See, this is about our lives. And that's why I'm going to say this. And the ninth step is vitally important for this, because we're trying to be on an altruistic plane. We're trying to be the unselfish concern for another human being. It's just isn't about cleaning up your side of the street.
Yeah.
This is about doing these steps and trying to get a relationship with your Creator. And ultimately, I think we would be learning to trust God and go to Him and get some of that discernment to ask for direction and purpose in our lives. And would this glorify God when we go there? And then chew on that and learn to develop that kind of reasoning, because, see, we're out to do His will, not ours.
Right.
See, we're not out to make ourselves feel better.
Right.
And it sounds to me like this wasn't thought through, and it's just what Marv said. But I believe that it's maybe because the person wasn't applying the steps properly.
Yeah, I don't think he knew any better.
Now he has that relationship.
Now he knows. Yeah, yeah. All right, here's story number 2. I got sober via the VA hospital's treatment program in 1994. While working the steps and wanting to clean house, I had a longtime school friend that I owed an amends to. I called him and explained the purpose of wanting to set right the direct wrong and why. I was told by him in so many words to have a good life and good for you, etc. Later, yeah, what's that, etc.? Later, I realized he was under the influence and not receptive to anything positive. Since then, I had moved from the area and continue walking forward in the program of recovery as outlined in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's been nearly 20 years since I had spoken with this person, but while reviewing where I'm at spiritually and emotionally, this occurrence pops in my mind. I have done some searching for his phone number and have come up blank. Recently, I saw a posting from a mutual friend on Facebook that he had spoken with this person and that, contrary to popular belief, he's still alive and well. I contacted this person that spoke with him and let him know what my home phone number is, so next time he made contact with our old friend to pass it along and that I'd like to hear from him. Once again, I had to put this into God's hands. The willingness is there to make this amends, but I know not to push the issue, and I'm patiently waiting for it to be revealed to me what to do on taking the right action. Good. Good.
Yeah, that's exactly what has been happening with me, where I told you I had that amends I wanted to make, and I knew if I did, it would injure the person and others. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I prayed to God and asked God to hold me in
readiness,
and willingness, that if that door ever opened, that He'd give me the strength to walk through it, because I knew that the longer you don't do these things, the easier it is not to do it. Well, it's been okay, so we won't go forward type thing. So the strength to do the proper thing, and it would be open for me. Well, that person has passed away now, and I'm okay with this. You know, I'm not, upset about it at all. I know I've done the proper thing, and that it would have just caused more harm.
Sure. Yeah, you bet. So step 9, make direct amends to such people. What are the such people? The people on our amends list. So obviously you can't do this step if you haven't done the previous steps, because you didn't make a list, which goes back to my beef and Cecil's beef about why are we reading the promises of the 9th step in a meeting when people don't even know what the 9th step is. And it says, except when to do so would injure them or others, and we've spent a great deal of time before talking about the others is not us. So let's look at some of these promises. Now, there's a couple here before we get to the part I really want to focus on, but we'll cover them. If our manner is calm, frank, and open, here's the promise: we will be gratified with the results. Talking about our men's process. In number 2, in 9 cases out of 10, here's the promise: the unexpected happens. Is that true? Did that come true for you guys when you were making amends? Did you expect to get retaliation, but you got acceptance instead?
Yes.
Marv? Did everybody say, yay, Marv? Or were there a few people out there that say, yeah, go fly a kite?
I don't know how to answer that.
There's always a few, I think, that, that aren't received properly, or we don't think they are,
right,
in our own heads. But the unexpected has happened. When that happens to you, you know it, because you're going there thinking, oh, boy.
Right.
And the unexpected happens.
Right. Number 3 says, rarely do we fail to make satisfactory progress. That's a promise. Rarely do we fail to make satisfactory progress. If we're doing this thing. Now, here's the part.
If you have the right heart.
If you have the right heart, yes. If you're doing it for the wrong motives, it's like the half measures thing. It really isn't going to work out. The following is what is read in so many meetings today. It says, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development. Now, that's not the promise, but I want to camp out on that just for a second. When people read that, when I first heard that, it perked my ears up, because I hadn't done these steps. And I was thinking, what phase of my development? I didn't know what they were talking about.
Yeah, that's the requirement.
Yeah, that's the requirement. Well, the phase of my development is the amends phase. So if means it's conditional. So here we are in meetings reading the promises, like they're the promises of the entire, program of Alcoholics Anonymous. They're the 9th step promises. If we are painstaking about making our amends, another way to put it, this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. Halfway through with what? The amends process. And it was amazing to me because I had all these people I needed to make amends to, and I didn't even get halfway through, and I was blown away by how people were receptive to me making amends. It did blow my mind because I was expecting, some real harsh kickback on it. So the promise is we will be amazed before we are halfway through. Here's another promise. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness.
You bet. I was no longer captive to myself. I remember the story I told about I'm looking down at the floor, afraid to look up.
Right. At
the person across the room because there was some controversy between us.
Yeah.
Didn't know how I would act, what I would say.
Right.
If the person said something to me or something like that. And so when I made the amends, now I can be in the room with that person. See the freedom from the bondage of self.
There's nothing more uncomfortable than being in a room and seeing somebody that you owe an amends to, or there's tension between, and not feeling like you can look up and look them in the eye.
That's right.
That's really uncomfortable, right, Marv? Marv's got some horses that he really can't just look in the eye and say, I'm really sorry.
You know what, Monty? I'm kind of drawing a blank on all this, and I don't really know why.
Maybe it's because you're cold. You got this cold going on.
I'm a little bit fragmented.
Are you?
Fragmented, yeah.
Are you?
But one thing I keep going through my mind while we're talking about this, I should say while you guys are talking about this, because I am kind of
discombobulated today.
Yeah. I think part of the reason we will be amazed is the fact that I think a lot of times God is opening doors, and He's not only working on the person trying to make the amends, but He's also working on the person the amends is being made to. Mm-hmm. And the amazing part about it, when you walk away from it, is, wow, what happened here? This is so neat,
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we're not forgetting that God's right in the middle of this thing.
Right.
If our attitude's in the right place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I don't think you're fragmented at all.
Well, I think part of my problem is I'm trying to think of some absolute experiences that I've had, and I'm kind of sort of drawing a blank here. Whoa.
Okay, so in the next one it says, we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. I don't know how many years I spent in morbid reflection of the past, and I would say to myself, I wish that had never happened. I wish I could just forget it. I wish I could just sweep it under the table. Things that I had, worked on, and things that I didn't want to look at. Both.
Here's where our growth process and our relationship with God really matters, because I absolutely believe that He has taken my greatest defect and turned it into my greatest asset.
Mm-hmm.
My addiction.
Yeah. Wow.
You see. And even into the amends process, to be able to make amends, to do that in a heart that is wanting to put the other person's welfare first.
Mm-hmm.
You see.
Mm-hmm.
That is just absolutely mind-boggling to me, is to have that sort of heart when you go out to make the amends. And that can only come from God.
Yeah, because that's not our nature.
That's not who I am.
Yeah.
You know, and so when I can do that, see, and so that I don't want to shut the door, you know, that this can be used in a manner that is just absolutely astonishing.
Number 7, we will comprehend. I just love this one. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. I used to get serenity and happiness confused. And then it was explained to me that happiness is a word based on the happenings going on around me, based on my circumstances. And when life lines up like that, that's great. You know, and my circumstances are all just falling into place, and I'm happy because everything's going smooth. But serenity, comprehending the word serenity, was a whole different thing, because I was told, guess what? I can have serenity regardless of the things going on around me. And that only came with by a relationship with God. And so comprehending the word serenity and knowing peace, I found that even in the cases where I made the amends and it wasn't received, I could still experience serenity and peace. Mm-hmm. And that was huge. Any thoughts?
Here's how sometimes it's like what Marv was just talking about, to some extent, the difference in people, the way they express something, you know, and they're just doing it in a little different. I think that should be turned around in my head. See, I think it should be peace and then serenity, because in my relationship with God, He said He would leave me His joy. And what I want to do is try to rest in Him. And when I do that and I have that sort of peace, then I get serenity. Isn't
Absolutely.
that weird?
Yeah.
That weird?
Yeah.
But, see, I think we're saying the same thing, though, Monty.
Well, you know, the word says, you know, may the peace that passes all human understanding guard your heart. Well, my heart's guarded by His peace.
Yeah. But don't you think that you, Marv, and me aren't saying the same thing?
Oh, sure.
When he's saying God should be in the middle of it, I'm saying
I think we are saying the same thing.
Yeah. It's just we have these different ways to explain ourselves. It's amazing to me.
Jump in there, Marv, anytime.
Okay. Well, I thought of an example, and it fits in with what you guys just got through saying. It's going to take me a minute to tell the story, but
that's all right.
I'll make it general as I can. When I was 40 years old, I got cancer. So they did surgery on me, and as a result of that surgery, there is medical equipment that I have to deal with on a daily basis. Okay? Well, there was a fellow that worked at the same place I did that he had this physical problem that resulted in him having to use the same kind of medical equipment I do.
Okay.
So I did not like this guy. Okay, I had a little bit of a resentment. I didn't want to be around him. I didn't want to talk to him. But when I found out he was going through this situation, I thought to myself at the time, I wonder if I ought to go up to the hospital and visit him and acquaint him with this medical stuff that we have to do, because for the first week or so, it's kind of a hard deal, and I thought, well, I could make it easier. Well, I think part of what was going on in my head is I wanted to make this amends I didn't want to hold this resentment, and so that's what I did. I went up to his hospital room and talked to him, and I explained to him what I'd been through and the medical equipment part of it and everything like that. He received it very positively, and when I walked out of that room is when serenity and peace came upon me.
Wow.
And I think the point, not that I'm trying to pat myself on the back, it's just something I experienced, and this has been a while back. But, and then shortly thereafter, serenity and peace left me.
Interesting.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, you get serenity and peace when you're doing God's will. I feel like God was talking to me, hey, you go see this guy and do this, this, and this. I did what I thought he wanted me to do, and actually I wanted to also. I wanted to help him. And so I got serenity and peace, and then the next little while, I can't tell you how long it was, I was back into my old way of doing things.
Let me ask you something. Do you think that you, in your own abilities, without the Spirit of the living God living in you, could have made that approach to him?
No.
That's why it is so important that we understand the third step, right?
Yes, very much so. And it does say, without me you can do nothing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And but and again, I know I've said this so many times in the last few programs, but it is progress, not perfection. And because I had that experience, and for a while after I left there, I was feeling really good and great about what I did.
Sure.
But it did that we can't depend on those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And of course they left.
Mm-hmm.
So there we are, trudging the happy road to destiny again, But where was it? Back here somewhere. It was saying, rarely do we fail to make satisfactory progress. That's what it was. It was progress. It was very satisfactory.
Yeah.
But then, all right, it's time to get on with your life, and boom, here's this other problem or situation or whatever.
Can I rabbit trail for 1 minute?
Yeah.
This is why I don't believe that it's let go and let God, even though I understand the terminology and what they're trying to say, let go and let God. We have a part to play in this. And it's like Marv said, he had to go make the amends. He had to get this relationship to learn to try to do God's will. You see? And when we do that, then we get some sort of peace and serenity. It might be fleeting, but see, we have to step out and do this. Can I say in faith or learn to walk with God?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we play a part. So this let go and let God, I just think it's one of the things that, because people latch onto it, it's like progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
It's an excuse to stay where you're at.
Yeah. If you don't take the original sentiment behind the platitude or whatever it is, and that's why it's so important we have sponsors and stuff, because a lot of these things that we say are really good. But if we don't understand what's fueling those, so let go and let God, I was trying to control the whole situation. I was trying to be the director of the play. And I learned that I needed to let go of my rights, and let God take control. But we misunderstood that for a long time. And we think it just means, well, God gets it. He'll take care of it. And we don't do anything. And that's your beef, right?
Again, that's where discernment comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's learning to walk with him and, and to get direction and try to learn to do his will, not yours.
Yeah.
And that's when you're concerned about the welfare of other human beings. For crying out loud, look who he came and saved. Take a look at yourself. And if we're going to try to have that kind of heart, for other people like he did for us.
In the middle, smack dab in the middle of the 9 step promises, we reach out to the other guy or gal. Number 8, no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we see how our experience can benefit others. Wow. We stop looking at the promises coming true for us for a minute, right smack dab in the middle of it, and we're reminded that we're supposed to be living this life to benefit others.
We've learned that our stories are there to be told to gain a person's confidence that we have a solution.
Yeah.
It's not to tell our war stories thinking that that's going to help another human being. That's not true.
Right.
It might comfort them a little bit to know that there's somebody else who's
get
done the same thing, but that's not the solution.
That's not the solution.
Yeah.
And my goodness, here in number 9, the feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. Boy, I'll tell you what, when you realize that your experience can benefit somebody and you've got a solution that you can pass on to them if they're willing to take a moment and consider this thing, it is a good feeling, if I can be so bold to say that, to know that God is using you. And it's just like the jewels in the crown. So he gives them to us, and then we lay them at his feet. So my uselessness that has disappeared, now I'm being of use. I turn around and I give that back to God and say thank you. I mean, because I can't imagine why he would use somebody like me.
Yeah, and this self-pity one is huge for me. I mean, I have actually went in my room and felt sorry for myself until I was just sick before I could come out. You know what I mean? I mean, it was like I was drowned in it. When they talk about the morass, it's a big one for me. I suffer from it today.
Sure,
you know,
and I can fall into that.
Yeah, so the feeling of uselessness and the self-pity will disappear. It's there, and I know it's part of who I am, and at least it doesn't drive my life like it used to. I don't have to hide in the bedroom for 2 and 3 days and refuse to answer the phone even to my own children.
You know when self-pity hits me the strongest? During the holidays. This is just me, going to in-laws' homes and feeling picked on. Feeling like the black sheep. Well, I'm just not going to say anything then. I'll just sit here and eat my turkey and ham and can't wait to leave these people's home and get home. Self-pity, 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 self-pity. I'm telling you. And so I was told a couple of years ago, stop being a joy sucker. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows.
We're just talking about self-pity. So I'll leave that with you, Mark.
So I should tell my sister-in-law, can I get that chair for you? And I'm laughing, but really, I have to determine, like this, like last year, I have to determine I'm not going to be a joy sucker. I had to do my part. I had to make a stand and say, I am not going to tolerate that behavior in me. I'm not.
I don't relate to that one.
Well, it didn't go very well.
I think nobody ever told me that. That's all. Oh, God.
Self-seeking will slip away. And it'll slip right back. Our fear, our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Isn't that the truth? I'm still blown away by the way God has changed the way I perceive things.
Well, look what we're doing. We're laughing about this
now.
I know. This is really funny. But I'm not getting mad at you and throwing something and then going hiding in my room, see?
Right. Yeah. Now, here was a huge one for me. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. Okay, now I heard that when I first came in the rooms, and I thought, what are you talking about? Because I hadn't made any kind of financial amends to my creditors. And the fear of people, the owner of the liquor store right down the street from my house, who come knocking on my door, want me to make good on those bad checks. And I had a chain link fence in the apartment, behind my apartment. I cut a hole in it so I could sneak out the back. when this guy come a knocking. And then after work, then I said, hey, I got a hole I can sneak out the back when the landlord comes a knocking. And it was all fear. I was afraid of these people.
Well, that person in the room was fear about what they was going to do, what I was going to do, what people in the room would think about me if I did something.
Yeah.
You know, and the economic insecurity, we all understand that.
Sure.
You know, we want that financial freedom. You know, today I think I have just a clue what that's about. You know, I'm not financially secure as people would think of it today.
But you don't live in fear of that anymore.
I don't live in fear of that.
Neither do I.
Absolutely. That's what it is.
It just blows my mind. I mean, I have no idea how we're going to pay this bill and that bill. You know what I'm saying? And you know what? It just doesn't upset me anymore. It just doesn't. It concerns me and that kind of thing, but I'm not freaking out. It's wild.
Put Barb on this next one because I don't even know what intuitively means.
We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. You know what intuitively means, Marv? Intuition?
Maybe, kind of, sort of.
I think it's kind of an intuition thing. It's kind of an automatic response. We kind of respond.
It's a knowing.
Knowing, yeah. Where we didn't know before.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the fear of economic security. It's just knowing, in that case, God's going to take care of us. Why worry about it? Why be anxious? And He's going to take care of us. Well, the same thing in this. Situations that come up, you know, we just seem to kind of know how to go about it, how to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Mm-hmm. Now, I've never thought of that, Marv.
You haven't?
You know, knowing that.
I'm not sure I'm right either, but that's just kind of the way my take on it. That
I like it.
I've experienced that.
Yeah, I like that.
And that can come at a moment's notice. That's what cracks me up.
Oh, and then afterwards you're going, wow, I dealt with that pretty well. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think what it's saying here, interwoven in the tapestry of that statement, we will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us, is the reality that these things are going to come up again. There is going to be situations where we're going to have an opportunity to make amends in our future. Because it says these things used to baffle us, but we're going to know how to now. Well, why would we need to know how to now unless there's going to be more down the road? So I think this is preparing us to see, you know what? Life's not over. There's going to be stuff coming down the pike. But you're going to be better equipped to deal with it. Yeah,
just because we've got sober, life doesn't stop.
Right.
Well, and then number 15, that's when it gives you the answer.
We will suddenly realize
that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves.
See, and if you're not learning to walk with God or have some kind of knowing,
right?
You know, if you're not growing in your wisdom and understanding of who He is and learning to trust, and those sort of things, how would you know that?
Good point. Good point.
See, they call it God consciousness, but they use a lot of other terms that they're talking about trying to get a new attitude with our Creator, you know, and do His will. You see what I mean? So
right.
The depths are leading you to this process, and what I realized for the first time in my life that what He had done for me was that I didn't want to use. See, I don't understand that.
The obsession had been lifted.
Yeah. See, I'm here. I am sober, and I wake up in the morning, and I don't think about where I'm going to get the money to get some drugs. See, that was a constant thought.
That was intuitively part of your thinking before.
Yes.
You just automatically defaulted to got to figure out how.
Yeah, I woke up, I didn't feel good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then once that thought was there, it never went away, see. So I think that's the insanity. I think that's the obsession.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And that is what is the difference between the alcoholic and the heavy drinker.
Mm-hmm.
Because lots of people have the phenomenon of craving. If they drink, they want more. But not everybody has the obsession when they're sober.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that a person is not an alcoholic, does it?
If they don't have the obsession?
Yeah. They're just not down the line as far.
They're not that degree of alcoholism that we talk about there, because I think American Medical Association talks about a stage 5 alcoholic, stage 3, and so forth. I think there are people that have, boy, lack of a better term, a lighter obsession than other people, maybe.
Well, I like to say it's not locked in. Is that
it's not
fair?
Locked in? Yeah, I think that's.
But they're still alcoholics, aren't they, Monty?
I think so.
I think so too.
I think so.
Yeah.
And
I think that guys like me had to learn to have a tendency not to treat them as different.
Right.
See,
Right.
We're all alcoholics, and then and learn to do that. And I think that was something where God worked in my life too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's
that.
okay.
Rabbit trail.
And so if God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves, that implies that I tried to do it for myself. But here's the thing. Now, going back to reading the 9-step promises in a meeting and not qualifying them as the 9-step promises. Will somebody please read the promises? And so then they read the promises. And I'm a newcomer now, and I walked into the room, and I am pissed off at God. I don't like God. I don't like my family raising of God. I don't like any of that stuff. And here we will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. And I'm thinking, BS. Because I haven't done step 1. I haven't done step 2, step 3. I haven't gone through the 4th step, taking an honest self-assessment and cleaning house. I haven't done any of that. And all of a sudden, you're shoving God in my face here in the promises, like this is this great, wonderful realization that's going to happen to you on day 3 of sitting in a meeting. And it's not fair to do that to people. That's my beef. There you go.
I think you said it right. That's your beef.
That is my beef.
That's a personal thing with you.
It is a personal thing
with
me.
Because I happen to also know that you like the idea of, you personally like the idea of God being, in the steps because of your faith.
Yes.
You see. But you're talking about a person that comes in that's upset with God. But see, Monty, what are we teaching them that
aren't they all upset with God when they come in?
Most of them.
I know I was.
I wasn't, I thought.
See, but we're all going to... We're going to do the steps. And when I got a guy right now, and he says, no, I'm not mad at God. I said, put his name down there. And he's already done it. and there were some things he didn't know. See?
Yeah.
This is about a fact-finding, fact-facing proposition.
Yeah.
So it's just, I won't get into that. It's something different. But I think that, to go back to what you were saying, that we worry about offending people when they first come in like that. But that's because of people and their emotional feelings when people come in. And they were starting to become very meeting dependent.
Right.
And they were sliding away from doing the steps because a lot of people didn't come in like you were talking about at a very higher level of alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They didn't have 20, 30 years of drinking and the destruction that comes with that.
Right. Okay, now this is, I just love this. Are these extravagant promises? Okay, so it kind of addresses that. When you're listening to all this and you're hearing somebody read this, and you're going, wow, that seems like a lot. I can't even tie my shoelaces. Well, are these extravagant promises? We think not. We don't think they're that extravagant. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. Now, this isn't the promise yet, but let me just say this. We use that phrase, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, and we attach it to all sorts of things in the fellowship. This is referring to the promises that come true as a result of the amends process. They come true sometimes quickly. They come true sometimes slowly. Why? Because sometimes we can't make an amends yet. Sometimes, even though we're willing to and are ready to do that when the opportunity arises, it just isn't arising yet. So it might be a slower process. Sometimes these promises come true quickly because people respond quickly and they go, you know what, don't worry about it. I love you. I'm glad you're sober. Give me a hug. You know, that's a real quick promise coming true right now. But I think when we attach some of these things and we turn them into platitudes and try to apply them to every aspect of the fellowship and the program, we do this literature an injustice. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly is talking about the promises coming true as a result of making amends. It's not talking about anything else. That's my take on it. It says they will always materialize if we work for them. So this is conditional. Like you were saying, Bruce. How are they going to materialize? If we work for them. And this isn't the same thing as I'm working on my character defects, because we know God does that. But when it comes to making amends, if we don't do this process, these promises are not going to come true. And so people wonder why none of them are coming true, and they've done steps 1 through 8. They've skipped over step 9 because of fear, because they haven't understand fear in the inventory. And they go on about their business, and they can't understand why the promises haven't come true because they haven't done the work.
Well, if somebody's using it to explain something that hasn't done the work, that's one thing. But if they've done the work and they understand that they're what this is, that they are talking about what you're saying, then I think to use it in other aspects of your life, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
is proper. But I think you've got a real sticking point that with you.
Well, I just hear a lot of people taking things out of context and using them as platitudes, and I wonder if that's helpful.
Well, I think that it's like I say, if I was your sponsor, Monty, I would have you do the steps around that.
Of course you would. Because you think I have a resentment about that.
No, I don't.
Well, I have a resentment that you think I have a resentment.
That's hilarious, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
So Marv, have you experienced many of these promises as a result of working for them?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add one thing.
You bet.
And I kind of lost track of where I was at when we got into the last part of this. But one thing that I think is important, it's been important to me through this stuff, and that's, let me put it this way. There's a lot of power in observation.
Mm.
And I personally spend a lot of time observing.
I know you do. Yeah.
And because I'm not sure this would be absolutely correct, but because I do that, I believe that there's a lot of things that I see and experience that helps me with these kinds of things we're talking about right here. Self-seeking will slip away. My whole attitude is changing, and I believe in part, not all of it, because like you just got through saying, you have to work for them.
Yeah.
But it has to do with being very observant what's going on around you. And I don't mean just at meetings. I mean every day.
In life.
Going down the road, going to the store, cleaning horse pens, whatever it is you're doing. Always be a little more observant. And I to be honest, I think God likes that. I don't think he wants us just be kind of going around like robots and doing this and that.
Yeah.
And if you're running around, and this is just me now, don't get mad at me, but if you're running around with headphones on and jogging and stuff, or texting continually while you're walking around the mall, you are not being observant.
No, you're not.
You know, and your brain is taking in all this noise you're getting from these headphones, and just an idea. You know, that's all I'm saying.
I think you're right. Well, let me go ahead.
I'm done.
Okay, well, let me say this. One of the most interesting things I've ever seen on Facebook, on social networking, were 2 words. Somebody said, if you had 2 words to tell yourself, if you could go back in time and talk to yourself as a teenager, what would those 2 words be? And people wrote all sorts of things. Somebody said, rock out, you know. Somebody said, don't do drugs. Somebody else said, that's 3 words, you moron. I mean, you know, something like that. But this one guy, I loved, he said, pay attention. Mm-hmm. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
So there's a piece in the book that talks about what the amends is for me, and I have it underlined in every book I have for Alcoholics Anonymous. It says, we go to him in a helpful and forgiving spirit, confessing our former ill feelings and expressing our regret. See, if you go to a person with that kind of heart, with a helpful and forgiving spirit, okay, not about you. I know you're cleaning up your side of the street. There are benefits that we reap from all kinds of promises and everything else. But it's an altruistic movement. The unselfish concern for another human being. That's what we're trying to learn, because we're selfish and self-centered people.
Yes, and if that is at the root of our problem, which it says, then we better be digging deep.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't pay attention and all these things like we've all talked about here today and expressed, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, next week, the promises associated with step 10.
My step.
My step. And I'll just give you a hint. We cease fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. Really? Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Wet your whistle there. All right. Our email address is take12radio@comcast.net. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, our web address is www.take12radio.com. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man along with Marv and Bruce, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.